Absolutely. I saw something from Colette Butler.
Yes. Okay. I have a comment regarding helping the children figure out their why. Many parents don't know their why. So how do parents and children discover this together? Would you like to take this one first, Dr. Harmon?
Yes, of course. That's an excellent question. What's unfortunate, Ms. Butler, that parents don't even think to have these conversations. They don't think about discovering their why because they weren't taught. Remember, there are things that have been passed down from the generations. And so when I meet with adults, parents, mothers in particular, in therapy, a lot of times they have no sense of what their why. They don't even think to ask the question. They're in survival mode. How do I take care of my children? How do I make sure that there's food on the table? How do I pay these bills? How do I manage my own stress and be able to be a caretaker to my children? And so it's hard to say, but those of us who know to encourage people to do this, to know those of us who know to have these conversations, we have to maybe ask them, those of us who are in the professional realm, whenever we meet somebody that we have conversations like, hey, who are you? Like, what is it that you enjoy doing? You know what I mean? Like, just kind of, I'm going to be honest, Ms. Butler, I used to go to homes. I was a mobile therapist at one time. And I worked in inner cities, primarily in Philadelphia and Chester, Pennsylvania. And so, I would go there to help with the children's behaviors. But you know how I talked about children want to know, am I worthy? Do you see me? That was important to me when I went to homes with mothers. And let me just say, I had some fathers, but mostly mothers that I work with. I went to a lot of single parent homes. Like, it was just like, I needed them to see that they were worthy. So I don't care what the house looked like. I found something that was beautiful. And then I would sit there, how are you? What's going on with you? Like, just having heart-to-heart conversations, and not from a place of professionalism. Like, I'm the therapist going in to save the day. It wasn't from that place. It was a place from human dignity. Like, I respect you as a mom who is doing your best. And I'm intrigued by you, and I want to get to know you better. And how can I be a support to you on your journey of discovering who it is that you are and what it is that you want in life? So that's through conversation. Remember, I talked about connection before correction, that we have to find ways to connect. Like, even when I was helping teachers out in school settings, I would tell them, why don't you connect with the child, connect with the parent before you go into correction mode? Because people will be more apt to hear you and receive what you have to say if they know that you're really invested in them as human beings. So it's through conversation.
Mm-hmm. And can I just like to add just one thing, Dr. Harmon, is just exploring things. Let me tell you, sometimes as African Americans, we put ourselves in too much of a box.
Yeah.
And I was a wrestler. And because I was a black wrestler, I was known as that wrestling guy. I played football and I ran track, but I was known as that wrestling guy. And you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to be some type of pro athlete. No, I thought I was, but the reality is that's not my claim to fame at all, right? So it's exploration. It's exploring a variety of different things until you figure out what you want to do. And exposing them, putting them in positions to do that. Like, I took a sociology class when I was in 11th or 12th grade, and ever since then, I like the social sciences. So I think to add to what Dr. Harmon is saying, and having those conversations and having that connection, you can have kids try different things, try things that, that normally inner city black kids or wherever you're from or whatever, that normally a lot of people wouldn't do because you might like it, thinking outside the box.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. And I think also another thing is, I think what you talked about earlier, Dr. McDuffie, in terms of the spirituality, that is a key in helping people understand who they are and why they were born and how they can show up in the world. That they can see themselves beyond their physical limitations. Because, a lot of times it's mind over matter. That if you can see it in your head, you can manifest it in your life. And so, like, we want them to be visionaries.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had children say, I want to be a doctor and an astronaut and a fireman. And I'm like, awesome. They will learn over time that, okay, maybe I have to just choose one, but you don't want to squash their dreams. You don't want them to shrink back. because of
absolutely.
our limitations as adults. Sometimes we impose our limitations on them, and that's so unfair. And our parents impose their limitations on us because of their own anxiety or their own experiences. So I do love the idea of encouraging them to explore different things and opening their minds up to endless possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got another comment by Colette Butler. And by the way, Colette, I want to thank you for your feedback on this webinar. It's much appreciated. I think the challenge is developing trust between the parent and the school. So many parents have had negative experiences at school. Yeah, and I would agree with you definitely with that one, Colette. I mean, it's difficult. Honestly, it's difficult between, if you're talking about underserved populations, and you're talking about any type of institution, it's always very difficult. One of the things I think that buffers that is building a strong relationship, some type of restorative relationship with parents, being open with them, encouraging them to come in, even when they're angry and they come in, thanking them for coming in, and, schools can be difficult places because I know there's good teachers. You have unions and you have administrators and they all have to kind of like mesh together. And as well, people can have the best of intentions, but still not be as effective with a kid as they need to be. And sometimes people don't want to deal with parents, because they may feel like a parent has attitudes. There's also parents, from my experience of working with parents in schools, as MST therapists, some parents go in hot-headed and angry because they don't know what to say, and they don't understand that system. So the only thing they know how to do is go in and yell and scream. If, as an administrator, you can somehow normalize their anger and say, hey, listen, I get why you're angry. I understand. But let's talk about it. If you can normalize their anger and bring them down here to your level, where you're at, then at the end of the day, I think that's where you can start some type of useful dialogue that helps both the child, the parent, and the school to be on more of the same page. It's really about being restorative. And I know that I've taken a lot of restorative trainings over the years, but I know that everybody's not restorative. And I don't think that people always even get what that means sometimes. But I think that's what we have to work towards. And even being proactive with parents and telling them positive things about their kids. If you have a kid that gets in trouble all the time, call when they do something positive and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, Raheem had a real good day today. And, I know we always call you for negative, so I wanted to give you the positive news, Give them an extra ice cream cone or something for dinner, extra dessert or whatever. So that's my take on it. Dr. Harmon.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, Dr. McDuffie, is one of the things that we discovered in MST therapy was like there's this whole homeschool connection that if you keep that going, it will help. I do know that there are some people, some schools that are taking action. I know my son was supposed to go to preschool in Wilmington, and they had where parents were going to homes in the beginning of the school year to meet families. So I think the schools are realizing that they have to make a better effort at connecting with families. I don't know how many schools are doing that, but I think that is awesome. Like just the whole community engagement and really it goes back to the same thing. I value you enough to even come to your home and sit and talk with you and answer any questions that you have. I don't know logistically how realistic that might be school-wide, but I do think it's a step in the right direction.
No.
To build that trust for parents to trust schools more. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, it's difficult, especially considering, where you have underserved populations, they usually have less resources. Which also one of the factors that contributes to some of the educational disparities. So.
Yeah. But you know what, that brings up something too, because going back to the whole notion of a village, that might be an opportunity for community leaders, church leaders, different religious institution leaders to create forums for schools and parents to come together and have these conversations. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. It has to be systemic. Everybody needs to get involved to create these conversations. So that's another way that it can be built between the school and parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, the village, that's, it's valid. Sometimes, if the school did connect with churches, they may be able to have volunteers for after school programs or whatever, whatever extra resources. I mean, I've seen it, where people did have volunteers, especially, let me tell you, a population to tap into is the elderly, because when you have people who are retired and, they're looking for things to do, they'll come out and help kids do math and English and things like that, especially in the after school program. So sometimes it's about connecting the pieces and, really building alliances in the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's it. Unless anybody has anything else. and we went a good hour and 3 minutes. This is a production of Politics as Usual on usualpolitics.com. We also have some other videos. I got a video that talks about how to adjust to school during this hybrid and online setting. So go to the website, as well as we'll have the African American resources. It'll be in the store. It looks like a little purse. Just click on it and go in, and it's free to download. And if you got any questions for us, you can always email me at pau@usualpolitics.com. This is Dr. Moriel McDuffy and Dr. Larhonda Harmon, my guest, who has been great. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just Google Dr. Moriel McDuffy YouTube station, and Dr. Harmon. She's around, so anything that you send to me, I'll make sure she gets it as well. All right, this has been Politics at usual.com and usualpolitics.com, and we're out.